make sure you sign in. If you have a phone out, put it up, because if I see it out, I'm going to take it for the rest of the night. This is all about respect. So this is life skills, right? But part of that is being respectful to when you have someone speaking, a teacher, professor, a coach. But them phones, look, that's a great idea. They put a table out in front and place your phone there. No temptation, because I'm going to see it if you go grab for it. All right. So if I see a whole bunch of chitter chatter, yes, I will call you out too. Y'all good? I think we got most of our people here. We're going to go ahead and get started because I'm a respecter of time, and this man right here has things he's got to do. But thank God that he was able to come and speak to you all. This is Anthony Parker, the Lakeland Magic General Manager. Please give him a hand for me. So this man has been through several life experiences. He's been a college athlete, he's been a pro athlete, he's been an international athlete, he's been a scout, and he's now a general manager. So he's filled a lot of spots. Many of you in here are not only sports management, but want to stay around your sport. So please listen up. If you have questions, we will have Q&A. Be open. He is being open with you. I'm not going to tell any more of the story, because that's for him. So here you go, Anthony.
Thank you, guys. Hopefully, please come up with some questions, because one of the tough things about doing this is like limiting it to a certain number of topics that you want to hit on and really dive into and not get too broad. But it's funny because I remember being in college and sitting in your seats, and I played for Bradley University in the central part of Illinois, and of course, they bring former players back. Guys would talk to us and bring people back that had some kind of level of success and trying to talk to us. And I remember sitting there and hoping, like, man, give me something, give me a nugget, give me something that I can get an advantage that maybe few other people know that will give me an advantage and allow me to be successful. And that's what I'm going to try to do for you guys here tonight. But Napoleon Hill tells us that all the great truths are simple. So the chances that you've heard everything I'm about to say here tonight is high. You've heard everything I'm about to say. But similar to like a picture, I've seen it on Instagram, and maybe some of you guys have seen it in person, but some of these pictures where you look at the picture and it's an image. And it could be a woman's face. You see a woman's face. And you're like, all right, it's a woman's face. And then your friend comes and says, do you see it? You're like, what, it's a woman's face? No, look again. Do you see it? Do you see it? And you look again only because this person's telling you to look. You're like, all right, let me look at it again. And you kind of look at it through a different lens, change your perspective. And as you're looking at it, you kind of see a second image start to emerge. And it's a man within that woman's face playing a saxophone. And you would have never seen it had your friend not told you to look again. And so that's what I'm going to try to do here tonight, is give you some of the same things that maybe you've heard over and over again, but try to change your perspective and get you to look at it through a different lens so that you can get that nugget, that advantage that we all kind of want, in life to be successful. First, let me just tell you a little bit about my background. Most of you probably don't know, but I grew up in a basketball family. My dad played for the University of Iowa, played basketball there. That's where he met my mother, and I actually was born while they were in college. And so some of my very earliest memories are my dad playing basketball. So that's why I started playing, because like any kid, I want to be like my dad. I want to play basketball. But very early on, I kind of fell in love with the game. I had a passion for it, and I love the game. I'm the oldest of three. I have a younger brother who's 3 years younger than me. My sister's 11 years younger than me. They have a very similar story. They started playing because they saw me and my dad playing, so they started playing. And very early on, they fell in love with the game and developed a passion for the game. My dad was my biggest basketball influence, our biggest basketball influence. He coached us all the way up through middle school. And like any coach of a child, anybody's in here that had their father or mother coach them, you know that they're the hardest on you. So he was the hardest on us. He constantly held us to a higher standard. One, because he wanted everybody else to know that, hey, if I can treat my kid like this, I can say something to you. But two, he was trying to instill in us what it would take to be successful. Because all three of us said, hey, you know what, we want to play basketball beyond high school. We want to get a college scholarship and play basketball. I said, okay, well, this is what's required. If you want to play basketball, this is what's required. In the summers, we got to shoot 500 shots a day. You got to get your 500 shots a day up, every day. No exceptions. We got to get 500 shots a day. Got to get out there and handle the ball handling for 30 minutes a day, no less than 30 minutes a day. He would throw up things like, hey, you know what? We got to build up your endurance and your foot speed. Get so you can jump rope for 5 minutes straight. Get the endurance and the foot speed where you can jump rope for 5 minutes straight without messing up. We're going to build our bodies up, get some endurance, get so you can do 50 push-ups straight without stopping. You know, now I'm a young kid, this is tough. And at the beginning, it was tough. Like, you know, you fail and you keep closer and you keep working at it. And then finally, you get it. And then on the other side of that, once you achieve those goals, he laid out something else. There was something on the other side. Every time we achieved it, there was something else. And then that's what he did for us very early on. And then pretty soon we started doing that for ourselves. And, you know, he did that because he was just trying to instill in us what it would take to be successful, not only in basketball, but in life. And he was hard, man. He was hard. Like, we would go to the park, we'd work out, we'd get him to go to the park with us, and he would just, like, put us through these workouts where it's just physically and mentally tough. And we all knew what he was trying to do, but still, it was tough. Like, I'm a Michael Jackson fan. I don't know if anybody else is a Michael Jackson fan. Michael Jackson fans? Nobody? Okay, a couple. But if you know Michael Jackson and the Jackson 5, you know about Joe Jackson. Joe Jackson was the father of Michael Jackson and the Jackson 5, and he, early on, when they first started, was borderline abusive with these guys. Like, he was very hard, very strict, borderline abusive. And so we used to joke with my dad, we called him the Joe Jackson neighborhood, which is a city I grew up in, because he was just that hard on us. And I looked around, and I didn't see anybody else's coach or dad as hard on them as he was on us. Now, there was love, but, you know, he was hard on us. He let us know the expectations. Just to give you kind of an idea of the mentality that he was trying to build in us, I remember playing in a summer league game, and, you know, our team wasn't that good, to be honest. Our team wasn't that good, and the team we were playing was one of the best teams in the league. And, you know, they had a lot of Division I basketball players that were going to go on to play college, and we weren't supposed to really be in the game. Well, I played well. I think I ended up with like 45 points, the most points I'd ever scored. And we ended up playing the team closer than we were supposed to. And so after the game, you know, everybody's kind of patting on the back, you know, you did your thing, good job, whatever. So I'm down walking with my dad, like, what's he gonna say? I get over there and he's like, you know what? Good game, but it was like a 5-minute span. We really didn't do much. Like, if you'd have put in work that 5 minutes, you guys might have had a chance to win the game. And to somebody else, it's like, well, wait a minute, he's never satisfied. No, he was just trying to build in me the fact that, okay, you did good, but here's an area you can get better. And that's the mentality he wanted us to have. My sister has a similar story. So she played soccer, and like my dad wanted us to be like this in everything, whether school, sports, you playing an instrument, whatever it is, this is how we approached it in our household. So she's playing soccer, and she was pretty good. You know, she was really good. Usually she's one of the better players on the field. And because she'd already grown up being one of the better players, more talented players, she could kind of cut corners. You know, she could relax, she could take it easy a little bit, because she was better than everybody. And this day was no different. But she had 6 goals. She scored 6 goals in this game, but she had a teammate named Molly Wyges. And Molly Wyges was one of those players that kind of, you know, I'd be out here, but I don't really care. I'm not going to go hard all the time, whatever, kind of nonchalant. But her dad celebrated everything she did, like she was the best thing ever, even if she wasn't doing anything. Well, this game, she actually happened to be in the right place at the right time. They centered the ball. She's in front of the goal. She tried to kick it, whiffed, missed the ball, whatever, and messed up. So we get to the end of the game. Sister has 6 goals. Molly's dad comes out on the field. Good job, Molly. Picks her up, puts her on his shoulders, and runs off the field with her. My sister goes to my dad. Hey, Dad, Candace, listen. You can't keep walking around the field and taking half the match off. That's just unacceptable. We can't play like that. Sister's a little bit more stronger than I am in terms of fighting back. She's like, Dad, Molly's dad runs and picks her up, puts her on her shoulders, carries her off the field. I had 6 goals. Why can't you do that for me? My dad, without missing a beat, says, do you want to be Molly Wyges in life? And what he meant was, we're not going to settle for being mediocre. Like, that's not what we're going to do. We're going to try to be the best we can be, and if you have more to give, just because you scored 6 goals doesn't mean you can't go hard. thing is that story was so impactful to her at 11 years old that that's a story she still shares with her daughter today and my kids. And, you know, so there was tough love, but Dad just wanted us, he wanted to instill this in us at a very early age. And the proof is, a skinny kid from the suburbs of Chicago who wasn't very highly recruited out of high school made it to get drafted in the first round of the NBA, which was a dream of mine. But that's not the end of the story. I failed. My first 3 years in the NBA, I was out of the league in 3 years. And I found myself overseas for 6 years. But that's not how I grew up. Like, okay, I failed, but I'm gonna go work my butt off over here. And whatever happens, happens, but I only know one way to do this. I only know one way to go all out. And I was fortunate enough after 6 years that I worked myself back into the NBA and went on to play another 6 years in the NBA. And if any of you guys know, maybe some of you don't, but as hard as it is to make it to the NBA, it's even harder to fail in the NBA, be out of the NBA, and earn somebody's trust and give you another chance for a second round. And you know, that was a lot of that had to do with how my dad raised me. My sister, some of you may know, my sister's Candace Parker. She's one of the top WNBA players in the world. And she had just, after her junior year, won a state championship with her high school team. Well, going into her senior year, she was in the summer league game, blew her ACL. And this is 15 years ago when ACLs, you know, it wasn't the end of your career, but it really put a ceiling on what you were going to be going forward physically. And she blew her ACL, and you know, that we just weren't raised in a family where you put limits on us. And not only was she able to come back in 6 months, which was really rare at that time, she came back and led her team to the state championship game again and won for their back-to-back championship. And by the way, a month later, after that, she was the first woman to compete in McDonald's All-American Dunk Contest. And she not only competed, she won. She beat a bunch of guys in the McDonald's All-American Dunk Contest. J.R. Smith was one of them, just so you guys know. So, last but not least is my brother. Now my brother, around high school, was like, you know what? Basketball might not be for me. You know, I like it, I enjoy it, but it might not be my ticket. But when we were kids, my grandfather was very sick. And so he was in and out of the hospital. And so we were in and out of the hospital visiting. And we saw firsthand how the impact that these nurses and these doctors had on our family. And my brother saw it, and he wanted to kind of have that impact on other people. And so at the age of 5, he's like, you know what, I want to be a doctor. So I said, Dad said, okay, you know, these are the requirements to be a doctor. You know, and that was our approach with everything. It wasn't just sports, it was everything. And being mediocre is not going to get it. It's a competitive field. You have to put your best foot forward every time. You got to work hard. We all know this, right? Fast forward, my brother not only got into medical school, he got into one of the best medical schools in the world, Johns Hopkins in Baltimore. And he got into that medical school, but then he also placed in residency in Johns Hopkins, which is even harder. It's even more competitive. And right now, my brother's a doctor in Tampa. He's a radiologist. And so we've all grown up hearing, you can be anything you want to be. If you just put your mind to it, you can accomplish whatever you want to accomplish. But there's a second part to that. Once you know the requirements, you got to have the discipline and everything else that goes into accomplishing your dreams. You can't just say, I can be anything I want to be. There's a second part to that. And I've come to believe, over these years, that most people will never, ever reach their dreams. Most people will never ever reach their goals and accomplish what they set out to because they're unwilling, they're not able to overcome the obstacles that most are unwilling to face. And there's a couple obstacles that, there's more than these, but these are ones that I picked out that I think are most important. There's 3 things, and the first one is self-discipline. And we all know this, right? And going back to trying to change your perspective, we all know self-discipline and what it means. But discipline is kind of taken on a negative term. Like when you're disciplined, you have to go without, right? I'm going to be disciplined. I'm not going to eat this, and I'm not going to do that. I'm going without. And to change your perspective, discipline is actually sacrificing the short term for the long term gain. So I'm not going to do this as an investment. I'm not going to do this now so I can accomplish what I want to accomplish later in life. And some people, you just don't have the self-discipline. One of my favorite speakers, Simon Sinek, he says it like this. He says it's like people are staring at the summit of a mountain, and that's their goal. That's what they want to do. The summit of the mountain, that's what they see. But what they don't see is the mountain. They don't see the journey, and you can't climb a mountain, in a couple hours. It takes time. And we see this every January, right? People come off holidays and like, you know what? Get in shape. Go to the gym, lose some weight, whatever. They go out, get their membership to the local gym. And then by June, most have either stopped their membership or they're still paying for a membership that they don't go to the gym. And that's just being disciplined enough to stick with what you said you were going to do. So I really encourage you guys to change your perspective on self-discipline, because no one has ever maintained or sustained any level of success without it. You just can't do it. If you study the people that have the most success, if you study the greats in any area, they all have a level of self-discipline. They've all become real regimented in how they go about doing things. Can't do it without it. The second one, and this is my favorite, is fear. Like what is fear? And I'm not talking, there's a couple of kinds of fear. I'm not talking about the kind of fear where if a 12-foot alligator came in here, don't fear. No, run. Like, that's dangerous, right? But I'm talking about the other kind of fear. I'm talking about the kind of fear where you're down 2. You're at the free throw line with no time on the clock. You got 2 shots to win the game. I'm talking about the kind of fear where you're out in a social setting and you see a girl or a guy that you're attracted to and you're too scared to go talk. I'm talking about the kind of fear where you might get invited to speak to a group of people, but you pass on it because, you know what? That's not my thing. I don't like public speaking. I'm uncomfortable. I'm scared of what would happen. And so you have the fear of failure, missing the free throws. You have the fear of rejection. You have the fear of what other people think. We all have these fears. But I want to change your perspective on fear as well. Because if anybody has ever kind of had one of these issues and they've gotten on the other side of fear, they've been rejected, they've missed the free throws, they've fumbled and messed up in front of people, you realize that you're still alive, you're still breathing, right? Like, life goes on. And so I want to encourage you guys to get on the other side of fear. I want to encourage you guys to run towards fear. Like, as often as you can, find out something that you're afraid of, that you have fear of, and do it. And do it. Because this is what's going to happen. Either you're going to succeed and you're going to find out, okay, I can do this. I got a little confidence from that. Or you're going to fail, which is even better. Because when you fail, you learn from it. First of all, you realize that it's not that bad. It's not that bad. Like, you're still alive, like whatever. I've missed free throws to win the game. Secondly, you're going to learn from it. And the more often you do it, the more often you face your fears, the better you're going to be at it. And I think that's just one of the most important things you can do, because so many of us limit ourselves because we try to shy away from what we're uncomfortable with, or what we don't think we're going to be good at, or what will other people think. Can't do it. The best that among us have gone through it. And if you are familiar with some of their stories, you know that the very best in some of these fields have an event in their life that they can point to that they failed at, which is why they got to where they are today. So, get on the other side of fear. The very last one, which is an important one too, is patience. And everybody knows you need patience, whatever. It's like, we live in this society where it's now, right? It's now. But the real thing is the journey. Because every time you accomplish your goals, there's something on the other side of that. I remember getting drafted. Playing in the NBA was a dream. Like, that wasn't even a goal. That was like a dream. But I got drafted in the NBA. But that wasn't it. There's something on the other side of that. Well, I'm trying to get to that next contract. Work to get to the next contract. Get to the next contract. What's on the other side of that? I want to play for 10 years. Work to play for 10 years. So my point is that you have to fall in love with the journey. You have to fall in love with the process because it's a never-ending thing. There's always something on the other side of whatever you achieve. It's so important because a lot of us give up before we accomplish what we wanted to accomplish. And why? Because it's too hard. Or maybe I'm doing the same thing as this person. They're achieving some level of success that I haven't gotten yet. Can't give up. Because there's still that mountain there. We still have to go on that journey. And we always see nowadays, especially, we see people that have this level of success. We see somebody that kind of appears to have like an overnight success story. But what we don't see is the 10,000 hours that they've spent away from the spotlights, away from anybody else, slowly beating on their craft, honing their skills, in the lab. That's what we don't see. And that's something that comes with every success story. That's there. And so I just want to encourage you guys to change your perspective on those three things: self-discipline, fear, and being patient. That's my story. I want to really, because I was talking to Paige earlier, and we had a lot of things that we kind of want to talk to, and I told you the challenge with preparing for these things is rather trying to keep it specific and give you like a couple things that you can take. But there's so many other things that I'd love to share, and maybe that can happen through some of your questions.
If anyone has any questions, I'll bring you the mic. Come on, you got questions. Raise them.
We got time.
I don't need the mic.
Yep.
What was the first thing you thought when you got drafted?
What was the first thing I thought when I got drafted?
Yeah, what went through your head?
So before the draft, you have an idea of where you're going to go, but you don't really know until it happens. And I thought I had an idea that I was going to go kind of where I got drafted. And so I was at home. I didn't want to be like the last dude left in the green room. I didn't want that to be me. So I stayed home, and beforehand, they kind of give you a call and give you the heads up that, hey, we're going to take you if you're there or whatever. So once I got that call, it was just, I was surrounded by family and friends, and it was just a dream come true. It was something I shared with my family, my father, my mom, and everybody that, the support that goes into this thing. It's not just you, it's people driving you here, taking you there, whatever. And so to be able to celebrate with them was cool.
How did you make the transition from player to the business?
So here's the thing: the NBA, they provide all these programs for you from the time you're in it as a rookie all the way through. If you want to be a broadcaster, they probably give you that broadcast for you that you can be a part of. If you want to be in business, you want to be in real estate, they're really good about putting you with people in the fields that you want to pursue. I, like most young players, didn't take advantage of it because you think you're going to play basketball forever, right? Think about this. I played professional basketball for 15 years. I was super blessed and fortunate to be able to play that long. But I was still 35 years old when I retired. If you live to whatever, 70, 80, you still have another lifetime to go. And so what I tell people, we grow up hearing, hey, you got to have something to fall back on. You got to get your education just in case you don't make it. What I found is that you got to get your education. You got to have something to fall back on even if you do make it, especially if you make it. Because we all hear these stories of these athletes that make it and lose it all. Bad investments, there's a whole thing behind that. I don't read that. But we all heard those stories. And so, my experience is you got to do all that in case you do make it. So I was fortunate enough to play as long as I did. And the second time I came back to the NBA, because I was out of the league, and I was like, man, I should have took advantage. If this don't work out overseas, what am I going to do? So the second time I came back to the NBA, I was like, I know I want to go into front office, or I want to go into broadcasting. So I'm going to do everything I can to make my connections, to network, to do all these things, to let everybody know that this is what I wanted to do. And once I retired in 2012, I was fortunate enough to, the Orlando situation just turned over. Coach Van Gundy and them had been let go, and then the new regime came in, and I was able to get in with them. I saw a hand go up over here. So.
When you went overseas, where did you go?
When I went overseas, where did I go? I played 5 years in Tel Aviv, Israel, and I played half a season in Rome, which were cool experiences. It's amazing because I tell people now I would not trade that for anything. I wouldn't want it to stay in the NBA because the perspective that you gain from living in a different country, among a different culture, it's irreplaceable. Like I really enjoyed my overseas experience.
When you left the NBA, what was it like mentally for 6 years, hoping you made it back?
Good question. So when I left the NBA, what was it like mentally being out of the NBA, hoping I'd make it back? So my first year, I was like, look, okay, I'm going to go overseas, kill it, get back in the NBA. But my first 3 years in the NBA, I didn't play. I was drafted to Philadelphia. Allen Iverson's second year in the NBA, so when they drafted Larry Hughes, so I was like, I'm not playing. I'm not gonna play, right? I'm not gonna play. So I spent 3 years, my first 3 years, basically not playing in the NBA. So once I got overseas, I just wanted to play. I was gonna try to kill it and get back, but I wanted to play. And once I got over there, we had a successful team, played well. Like I enjoyed playing again. So I was like, you know what? If the NBA doesn't happen, I'm okay. Like getting good money, playing at a high level. Like I enjoyed it. But then, you know, I played well, and I thought some of those NBA chances would come, and they didn't. And then they came when I least expected. Like I came back when I was 30 years old, which, you know, I didn't know that would happen. So, but my mentality was just, look, I'm gonna try to kill this. I'm gonna try to get as good as I can here. And I was fortunate enough. People said I was the best player outside of the NBA. We won championships overseas. I got MVPs. So my mentality was to try to, wherever I'm at, I'm gonna try to kill it. You know, I'm gonna try to be the best that I can be. I'm not looking at this as a demotion, it's an opportunity.
What would you say is the key to strengthening your discipline on like a task or a goal or a dream? And what does it look like to strengthen that discipline
Yeah, so what does it look like to strengthen your discipline? Well, I would say this, that I think they say it takes 21 days to form a habit. And ultimately it comes down to just saying, you know what? I love myself enough that I'm worth whatever it is I'm going after. I love myself enough that I'm worth whatever it is that I'm going after. And it's doing it day after day for 21 days. That's what they say to form a habit. But there's another part of that, because very often it's just tough to do it on your own. So you gotta surround yourself with like-minded people. People that are trying to go where you're going. People that are trying to achieve, because it's hard to do stuff, and you constantly got people, friends, whatever, tugging at you, trying to get you to do stuff that you know is not gonna take you where you wanna go. So you gotta surround yourself with like-minded people. You gotta feed your mind, because that's another thing. Like, you know, we all have, there's a quotient, there's a E versus E. It's called education versus entertainment. And if your E versus E, your education versus entertainment is a 5-to-1 ratio, you're gonna be really successful. It's just a fact. If you're reading, if you're listening to podcasts, if you're going to seminars, if you're constantly feeding your mind education, and by the way, I believe, yes, you get educated here, but you educate yourself. That's the most important learning that I've done. On your own, around like-minded people. You gotta educate yourself. We're in an age where anything you want to learn about, anything you want to know is at your fingertips. You guys can find out how to interview for a job. You guys can find out what are the most important things that you need to get what are the most important skills you need to develop to get to where you want to go. And so I think that like-minded people, grow yourself, and just continue to do it day by day and develop that habit.
What are 3 habits that you have currently in it's a ritual that you go through on like a daily basis that you believe has really helped you?
Well, I think, first of all, I'm calling myself out here. Since I became the general manager, like, priorities, I'm trying to rebalance that right now, because as a player, I read an hour a day religiously. I worked out, and I ate right, did all those things. But another thing when you have a family is trying to balance that work-family relationship. And so we would always separate a time where we sat down and ate together as a family. No matter what was going on, we sat down and ate together as a family. And just talked and caught up. And it sounds simple, but when everybody's going which way, and you have kids and everything, they got activities, sometimes that's really tough to do. But I need to get back to a lot of that. A lot of that has been kind of pushed aside because I got this new position and I'm being pulled in a lot of different ways, and so I'm trying to figure out how to balance this right now and get back to developing a lot of those rituals.
As a business professional, what is your embarrassing moment?
Business? I don't know if I qualify what I do as business, but I think one of the things you'll find out, and I was sharing with Paige earlier, is everybody has 6 human needs. Tony Robbins always talks about these 6 human needs that everybody has, right? You know what that is? Yeah. So the 6 human needs, the first 4, you're going to figure out a way to fulfill positively or negatively. You're going to find a way to fill these needs. It's certainty, because it's hard to do anything if you don't know if the roof's not going to fall in on you, right? Certainty, uncertainty, because we need a little bit of variety in our life. If we know everything that's going to happen, life is what? Boring. Significance, we all need to feel like we're significant in some way, shape, or form. And the 4th one is love/connection. It says /connection because most people are too afraid to reach towards love. But the final 2 are the only ones that you can only feel in a positive way. And it's growth, and it's being part of something bigger than yourself. And to answer your question, this is my opportunity to pour back into players that are trying to follow the same path that I did. And I can help them try to avoid the pitfalls. I can give them the books and try to give them the information that I wish I had at their age. And to see them kind of come along in that journey, and to see them, the light go on, and see them kind of act differently and start approaching stuff differently, for me, that's my biggest accomplishment. Because whatever they did for me, they're going to pass on to whoever it is. And I think, you know, as a person, but certainly as an athlete, when you're done playing, that's all you want to do. So I'm really hanging over here. Sorry.
What was it like transitioning, not being an athlete?
So my transition was a little different because, like I said, I played till I was 35. And, you know, you hear about all these people that retire and they unretire and they come back, and I was like, I don't want that to be me. Like, when I'm done, I want it to be done. So when the first year I was like, you know what, I think I should retire. I was like, let me play one more year just to make sure. And the first jump ball, the first game, I was like, yep, I'm done. I knew I was done. So I was fortunate enough to not have any major injuries and be able to play so long. My body was just, I was ready. So there was never anything in me where I'm like, hey, I wish I could get out there and like I do miss moments. What I miss the most is being on the planes and the buses with my teammates, going out to dinners and kind of interacting, because you know, you're around, it's unlike any other thing. You're around people your age doing what you do, and you have kind of little inside jokes and stuff. Like when I go to the office now, you know, it's just not the same. And so that's what I miss the most. Yes, sir.
What was Allen Iverson like?
AI. Okay, what was Allen Iverson like? First of all, like, one of the things that I do the most is defend Allen Iverson and LeBron James. Like, that's what I do all the time, because everybody wants to hate on them. But AI had, like, the biggest heart, man. Like, this dude, like, okay, you see the stories, and you see the, you know, we talk about practice, and we see all that stuff. But when my sister was freshman in high school, whatever, she wasn't anything. And she wears number 3 to this day because of Allen Iverson. It's like, she wanted to be Allen Iverson. And so I told him, you know, hey, AI, this guy came out Rookie of the Year. Everybody wants to be AI, right? Everybody's dressing like AI, everything. And I told him, my sister, you know, really was a big fan of yours. He's like, oh, that's cool, that's cool. So she came to one of the games, and you guys remember those little finger sleeves they used to wear? So he had a whole handful of those things and gave them to my sister, took a picture with him. And so that's just one of the stories that, you know, kind of sums up who AI is to people that know him. Like, he's a big, hard guy. You know, he came up in a tough area, tough time, and he was loyal to those guys that helped him get through that. And as some of you guys know, when you get to a certain level, you kind of outgrow some of that stuff. But I respect him for staying with those guys that would kill for him, you know? Like, those are the guys that got him out of a lot of situations. And so, you know, that's my guy, man. If ever I see him, you know, he's AI. And he's one of the funniest dudes you'll ever know, too. Like, hilarious. With my current position, how hard is it to incorporate family time? It's a challenge. And here's why. Because I think a lot of what I do, to have an impact on people, you have to have a relationship. You have to have a strong relationship, which requires time, and there's just no substitute for it. And so, in addition to my responsibilities with the Lakeland Magic, I'm also scouting for the Orlando Magic. So that requires travel as well. And so, you know, I have to be at practices, and I have to try to find ways to develop relationships with these guys, so when I tell them something, they know I have their best interests at heart. And they're not going to take it like, oh, you know, just whatever. Like, they know it's coming from a good place, and they're ready to kind of accept the tough love when it has to happen. But, you know, I think it's work. You guys know, just like your profession, your relationships require work. And I'm willing to put in the work. So my wife and I find different ways to do things. Maybe they come to a game. Maybe I have to say no to a couple things professionally. You know, I know I don't like to brag, but I've passed up on a couple opportunities to go up the ladder just because it would require the time that I have 2 girls, 15 and 12. I only have my oldest for another couple of years, and he's gone. He's in college, that's it. You don't get those years back. And so for me, those kind of decisions play into some of that work balance, but you know, we try to do our vacations, we try to go to all the basketball games and cross-country matches and everything like that I can. And that's how, but it's a work in progress. It's something that we continually work on, that I haven't mastered yet. Yes? Glad you asked that. Yes I am. Yes I am. And my kids hate me. So like one of the things my mom did, they don't hate me, but because they hear these stories that between my dad and I, and so they know all the stories. And so when they see me do it, hey, you're trying to be like your dad. You didn't like your dad. Why are you doing it to us? But one of the things my mom did is before, like, this is back when I'm dating myself. This is back when like Nintendo and Sega and all those first real good games came out. So we spent like hours. She's like, no, we're not doing this. You guys are gonna get on typing tutor on the computer and like learn how to type. And you gotta do an hour typing tutor before you play an hour of video games. Well, guess what we're doing in my house? They were like, are you serious? Yeah, we're gonna learn how to do typing tutor, you do an hour typing tutor, then you play an hour of video games, and then that's it. And so, my dad loves it because he knows how mad I was when he was raising me and I was mad and rebelling. But to see me do the same things with my kids, he knows, you know, it paid off. And, you know, a lot of people stop my dad, you know, what did you do with your kids? You know, how, you know, you got NBA player, WNBA player, doctor, you know, and the doctor's like the black sheep in the family, like it's crazy. But he just tells them how we did things. You know, we supported each other. If my sister had a soccer game, we were all there. Brother had a basketball game, we were all there. And still to this day, when my sister has a game somewhere, we're all there. If my brother has something, even my nieces, we all try to be there. We all try to show up with each other. And so I think carrying on all those things, right now my kids don't know it, but I think like myself, and eventually they're gonna see what it means, and they're gonna try to do that with their kids as well, hopefully. Yes, sir.
As a man of faith, how difficult is it to bring such a large organization where maybe some of your coworkers aren't men and women of faith?
It was more challenging as a player, and we all know why. But I think one of the things that I found is that I walked my walk, and I didn't get off that path for anybody. But at the same time, I just walked it. Like, I think a lot of people say one thing in the cameras and to the public, and then walk a different way. And a lot of those people are like, you know what? No, I know you're phony. Like, how can you say that over here, but I saw you doing this? And I don't think they saw that when they saw it was consistent. One of the things that I know I don't do is cuss. I don't cuss. I read the Bible. You control your tongue. You can do anything. Because that's the hardest thing to control. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take the challenge. I'm gonna do it. And initially it was awkward because every time you want, you know, it's like some dang it comes out. You're like, what? Dang it? Like, you can't say that. Yeah. But eventually over time, like I don't cuss. And I don't tell people I don't cuss. I just don't do it. And over time people realize, like, you know, and that's the doorway to kind of have a conversation as to why. And people are more receptive when it happens organically. You can make an impact on people when they see you walking that walk. And then when those windows open up for you to have kind of those heart-to-heart conversations, they're more receptive in those moments. But I didn't have any issues. Everybody knew I wasn't going to strip clubs. Go have dinner, you know, go out, have a drink, whatever. But there's certain lines that I'm just not going to cross. And eventually, when those guys got to the point where they had serious girlfriends or they had wives and things like that, they were like, you know what? I want to do that too. Some of them didn't, but some of them did. Yes. What made me pursue a general manager position? So once I got out, to me it was either broadcasting or front office. And I did some broadcasting things, and it's fun to do. For me, it was fun to do here and there. But I needed something that I need. You know, one thing as an athlete, once you're out, you gotta have that competitive outlet, like something. Like, I don't know, it's ping pong, whatever, I don't know. I need something to compete at. And broadcasting wasn't it. I didn't have any skin in the game. So I wanted to get into the front office world. Well, once you're in the front office, the ultimate thing is to be a general manager. Now, I'm the general manager of a minor league team, not the Orlando Magic. But the path and maybe what is in my path is being a general manager of the Orlando Magic. I don't know. Like, personally, I'd rather choose my family, and I know a lot of those, it's tough, man. You're 24 hours ready. Like, I don't know how many messages I've missed already, but I'm sure I got a lot of text messages and emails to return. And so I can only imagine that next step up. But, you know, just being the competitor, when you start here, okay, well, what's the best? I want to challenge myself to get to that. And so this is, being the general manager of Lakeland has given me the opportunity to pass on kind of what I know as a player, but also what I've learned as a person to younger players. And that's the most fulfilling thing for me. All right. First question, what did I do with my first paycheck? So this was not smart. But before you get drafted, when you sign with an agent, you can take out a loan. You know, if you think you're going to be drafted, you take out a loan and do whatever you need to do. So I took out a loan before I got drafted. I had a loan, and I took care of my parents' debts, and I bought a BMW, and then just hoped I got drafted. What's your second question?
So when you were chasing, was it like obsessive, like a balance? Like, I know Steve Nash, he's like, he is like obsessive now, like find a balance there. Like, do you agree with that?
Well, I think there's certain times in your life where you can devote more time to something. When you're young, you don't have a family, that's the time you can devote to it. But I think there is a difference between being obsessed and having a regimented approach to getting better. And I think you can do that. You don't have to be, you know, you hear all these crazy stories, you know, Kobe Bryant, whatever, like, there's a line where I think you can still, because that's why Kobe's body broke down too, is because he put so much into it, and he was going to be great anyway, but he put so much into that his body just started to break down at a certain time. And so I think there's a smart way to do it where, you know, you don't have your body break down, but at the same time, you know, a lot of these great players, they become so regimented in what they do and how they do it. Ray Allen was a guy that, he was on the court 3 hours before game time, no matter what. Some people have the rule back-to-backs, I'm not going to shoot. No, Ray Allen was 3 hours, I'm going through this drill, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Same drill every time, back-to-back or not, that's what he did. He had a routine, he stuck with his routine. And it wasn't a thing where if he missed doing something that he thought he was going to play bad, but it was just a routine that he did. And it's interesting, a lot of those guys that are like that, Steph Curry, Ray Allen, like, they're great golfers because the same thing goes into golfing. It's the same kind of regimented, meticulous approach to shooting goes into the golf swing. So I thought that was really interesting. Yes.
As a kid, have you ever wanted to quit because how hard your dad went?
As a kid, did I ever want to quit because of how hard my dad was? So we don't quit. Like, there's been a couple instances where, like, you know, Dad, I don't really feel like, no, we don't quit. If we get to the end of the season, we can make a decision, but we're not quitting in the middle of the season. Happened with my brother, happened with me my first year in college, where it just wasn't fun. Like, we were just running, like, what are we doing? It's just too much. Like, this is not fun. It's not what I signed up for. We don't quit. Went back, and, you know, anything new, example, it's like, whoa, you know, what I've learned is, and you guys know this, at the high school level, you have one definition of hard work. College, you have to kind of redefine what that word means, right? You have to redefine what dedication is. So, you know, they say wisdom begins with the definition of terms. We have to redefine what that means every time. And so when guys come to us and they're a professional, we have to redefine what taking care of your body looks like, what real hard work looks like. And so that was just me like, okay, well, you know, this is what I signed up for. And I had to redefine what hard work it is and what my dream required. And my dad wouldn't let me quit. And the funny thing is, my son, we signed him up to a team, real hard-nosed coach from North Philly, like one of them guys. And my son was like, whoa, I don't want to do this. I want to quit. Oh, can't quit. Can't quit. And he finished out the year and he loved it. Finished out the year and he loved it. So that's why I think the fear and all those other things, you gotta get on the other side of that. Because that's where everything that we want is on the other side of that, but most people are just not willing to do it. And that's what's so exciting to me, is that if it was easy, everybody would do it, we've all heard that, but you can access something that everybody knows the answer to. Everybody knows how to get there. Everybody knows the recipe to it, but they're unwilling to do it. And if you guys, and whatever it is you pursue, if you have that desire and that mentality, that self-discipline, and it doesn't always happen the first time. Like, you got to find something you're passionate about, and you know, you swing and you miss, and you go over here and you find something. But eventually it's going to happen. And I think if you have that same approach to whatever it is, it's going to work out, and you'll be able to be maximized as a person.
All right, 2 more questions.
Do you feel you're doing as good a job with your kids as your dad did with you?
I do. I feel like I'm doing a better job because I don't have the Joe Jackson in me. No, my dad, some of our biggest fights and disagreements were over basketball. And I grew up realizing that sometimes I missed his message because of the way it was delivered. And so what I try to do is have that balance where, you know, now I'm tough on him, and we can yell and holler and scream and everything like that, but I find that if that's how you do it all the time, you kind of block it out, right? But if you can get mad every now and then, you can get somebody's attention. So I tell them that all the time. I'm doing a better job than them.
What's like adding up the business side of things? What's something that's a pro and con of working in sports like that specifically?
What's the con?
Yeah, like what's something that's like especially nice about being in business and sports, and what's something that's not so great?
Well, the not so great part is it's really tough on relationships too. If you want to ascend to any level, like it's just tough on relationships. If you start as a scout and you're traveling, and you know it's just really hard on relationships. So that's a con. The pro is just that it's fun. Like you're in sports, it's something that I've grown up doing my whole life, and I've certainly learned a ton after I retired and being on this side of things. But I feel like I can have a conversation with anybody in the world, and I'll have something to offer. And so for me, that's a good thing. The other thing is, most of the time when I'm out in a social setting and people ask what I do, I don't like to share what I do because people think it's the coolest thing and it dominates the conversation. And do you know this person? Did you ever play with that person? Did you know? Tell me about this guy. What about this trade? And I just don't want to do that all the time. So it is a cool thing, but it is tough on relationships. Yes?
So you talk about scouting and a lot of time people, what would you say is like the biggest attribute or characteristics that you look for? Because obviously you can't see like their desirable, their work behind the scenes.
Right. No, that's a good question. As a scout or as a general manager, what are some of the qualities that I look for when I hire somebody? And here's what I've learned is that you want to hire people that believe what you believe. So in my interview process, everybody knows what to say, right? I'm a hard worker, I'm responsible, I do X, Y, and Z. Everybody says that. But I think there's ways that you can kind of ask questions to get to if somebody believes what you believe. And my thing is relationships. You have to value relationships, especially in my line of work. You have to value relationships because information is the king in what I do. If I want to find out about a player okay, everybody sees how they play, but who are they as a person? Are they playing because of the money, or are they playing because they love the game? You know, are they responsible? Are they going to show up? Are they a pro? Do they take care of their bodies? Like, all of those things you can find out with information. That takes relationships. The other thing is what I said before, is that relationship with coaches, relationship with managers, relationship between teammates. That's the key. That's what makes it all go. And so I want to know that people value relationships, and then to value relationships, you have to have the type of personality where you're vulnerable. You can tell people that you don't know. You're engaging. You have a growth mindset where, you know what, I know I don't know this, but I want to learn it. And I don't care who you are, what your title is, maybe you can teach me, because I don't know. So, you know, I can tell you, hey, you know, you got to work hard, you got to do all that stuff, but I think some of this stuff is, you got to be a good person. Like, Maya Angelou is one of my favorites. She says, people may forget what you say, people may forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And I think, to me, that's the most important thing as you go forward, because we made decisions on players where, nah, this dude's a jerk, I'm not bringing him in. Made decisions on staff members. No, he's really good, really talented, can't do it. And I imagine that in business, it's much the same way.
All right. Everyone give
Mr. Parker, we want to thank you from Fire Athletics for just taking the time to come out and do with our life skills. Look, everyone, this was perfect. We could have asked questions on and on and on, but I'm a respecter, again, of time, your time, and his time. So, if you'd like to speak to him quickly afterwards, because I know he's got to get home to a family. And believe it or not, if everyone has had their one-on-one in here with me, like the things he talked about, I know I said to you. Literally talked about. And if we haven't gotten into that yet, we will, men, on Tuesday night. So, again, thank you all for coming. Men, I'll see you Tuesday.